Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. Hope you all are well. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, Elle. I'm glad. All right, I'm going to give it a minute. Good afternoon. I got in here on two wheels, so sorry, y'all. I'm trying to get my life together over here. My apologies. Happy Sunday to you. Buenas tardes. I got in on two wheels to make this live, but we're gonna make it do what it do. I might even look like I got in here on two wheels. I hope you all are well today. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Good afternoon from Baltimore. Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. It's a beautiful Sunday here. All right. I think I'll get started. I think I got everything set up. Y'all can hear me at least. All right. As I always introduce myself, and I'm gonna work on my introduction. I'm gonna do all the things. I'm getting myself together. I promise y'all. Happy Sunday, Devorah. Hi, Evelyn. Hello, hello, hello. All right. As I introduce myself, I always say Jewel Pearson. I built a fancy tiny house in 2015 because I don't believe you have to give up luxury to go tiny. Good morning. Thank you. And since that time, I have shared my journey to inspire others who are interested in the movement. I do offer coaching and consultations to help others in that journey. And once this video goes live and I do all my updates I'm supposed to do, you will be able to find links to schedule with me in the video description below. And as I'm doing all of that, I like to serve up a lot of representation in the movement. We want to see ourselves in this movement. We want to take advantage of this movement. And I hope if you find the information in the video helpful, you'll like it, you'll share it, and subscribe to the channel. And turn on the notifications so that you'll know when we're live over here, since I'm not doing a good job of letting y'all know when I'm going to be live. Hi, Kitty. Thank you, Elle. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I was out last night, kind of late and in the evening air. And the next thing I know, my hair was doing its own thing. It was soaking wet. The bugs wanted to be in it. It was just a lot. But thank you that we were able to get it back together today. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. I appreciate you. Okay, so I do have a topic. I skid in here on two wheels, but I did have a topic put together. I just wasn't proactive in my thumbnails and all of the things. Good afternoon. Oh, thank you very much. Look at y'all making somebody who was running on fumes this morning feel good. Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all. So the other week, my subject was that the time is now. Like, it's go time. It's go time. Like, we know that the future is now, and that's what we talked about 2 weeks ago. How we're doing stuff for our future self, but future self is happening right now. Like, we have to be in action right now. We can't continue putting things off, even though it's for our future self. Like, we have to be in action right now. The time is pushing us and pressing us to understand that the time is right now. Everything that's happening is telling us we have to be preparing. We have to be looking out for our future self. Our decisions that we're making right now have to be for our future self, and we have to be putting some action into that future self. Like it just can't all be theory right now. We've got to be making things happen. Thank you so much, Bridget. Thank you. I appreciate you. So that was the conversation 2 weeks ago. When I get myself together and update my YouTube, I'll link to that conversation. And we've been talking about that for a while, like preparing, being in preparation. Like if you think about it from a pregnancy standpoint, they call it nesting. Like when you're getting all the stuff together for what's coming. And that's where we, happy Sunday, that's where we should be right now. But one of the things I wanted to follow back up on that conversation, because last night as I was out, I was having a conversation with a woman who was saying that she was trying to downsize. And the conversation just really got emotional at one point because she was saying how difficult it was to downsize and that she knew it was imperative because we're not getting any younger. She shared how old she was. As I've shared, I know I have more years behind me than I have, left in front of me. And that puts you in a space of vulnerability when you really recognize that. And she was saying, and over time you just collect stuff, you collect all the things. And she admitted it was overwhelming. She admitted that she understood letting go of some of that stuff would be freeing, and she's looking forward to that. But it's still the point of getting to that. And she shared she's got young adult kids, and the kids are adamant about it. Like most of these young folks are adamant about, we don't want this stuff when you're gone. We don't want the responsibility of having to deal with this stuff. And so the onus is on us to handle our stuff and not push that out to folks later on, especially. And we talked about the fact that when you're pushing it out for folks later on to have to deal with, so they're having to deal with possibly, depending on how it came about, they're having to deal with grief because of, circumstances, whatever led them to the point of having to deal with your stuff. They're having to deal with grief, and then they're having to sort through years and years and years of your stuff. She admitted some of the stuff was from her mother, ancestors who aren't here. Some of the stuff is from kids, her kids when they were younger, and her kids are now grown. So it's a collection of things, not through all of her own fault. Like there's no fault in that, but the responsibility in handling it is her responsibility. And so when folks are having to go through on the other side of having to navigate dealing with your stuff, they're grieving. And then every piece of it, because they're grieving, every piece of what you're of what they're having to deal with is emotional for them, because it is, how do I decide? Here's a hat that thank you, Elle. Thank y'all. Here's a hat that I know you used to wear that had I dealt with it. I don't think really anything about that hat, but now my child has to deal with it, and that hat becomes sentimental to them, and they can't seem to get rid of it. Because, I know she wore this hat when for you, it doesn't really mean anything, but because they're now having to deal with the downsizing and grief, everything becomes sentimental for them, and it makes the downsizing process even harder for them. And so we were talking about that. And so I wanted to follow back up to the conversation to say, the time is now. The time to do all the things. The future is still now, but we're not meant to build the future alone. We're not built to have to do all of this alone. And so we need to look into the resources to make this less hard on ourselves. And so the first thing I recommended to her, as I recommend to all of you, is Christine Platt's book. I need to tell Christine I need a cut. I'm teasing. The Afro Minimalist Guide to Living with Less. There's a lot that goes into why it's hard for us to let go of things. The emotional attachment that makes it hard to go through all of the stuff. And sometimes before you can get to the getting rid of stuff, to getting to the downsizing. And I always share, it's not just physical stuff. I always talk about people, places, and things. You have to understand the emotional attachment to it and deal with that to be able to get yourself into action. And that's what a lot of what Christine's book covers, to be able to do that inner work so that you can do the outer work. And that's why I recommend it. It's a easy read, easy in that it's not a lot of words, not a lot of content, but it's also hard because it's forcing you to look at yourself. If you get the audiobook, Christine is actually reading it, which makes it even better. She has a really soothing voice. It's a book that you'll have to take in bits and pieces. We're reading it in the book club. I wasn't able to host book club last week, but we're rescheduling. So we're reading it in book club and Patreon. That's the first thing. But so I did recommend that. But the first point I will, and I agree. As she and I were talking about this, there's a young woman that both of us spoke to, that we follow on Instagram, and her mother passed suddenly, and now she's left with dealing with getting rid of her mom's stuff, taking care of her mom's stuff. And I don't think she knew this before, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't remember exactly, but she has discovered that her mom was a hoarder. And it's a young Black girl, and it adored her mother, and she, speaks very highly of her mother. But now she's having to go through and get rid of handle all of her mother's things and her business. And she's documenting that on Instagram and sharing, the highs, the lows, the good and bad, and all of that. And so both of us were talking about that. And like you said, it's not fair to the next person to have to deal with all of that. But what are but we don't have to do this alone. And that's the point that I wanted to circle back to. It's go time. The future is now, but you don't have to do all of this alone. And so the first point I want to call out is that doing it alone is a myth. Having to do it all alone is a myth of independence that I feel like we've been sold, especially as Black women, that we have to be strong and we have to carry everything. We carry the family. We carry all of the things. Right now, they want us to carry the world. That we have to sign up for that is a choice. Sometimes it doesn't feel optional, but we don't have to. um, thriving doesn't, for us to thrive, it doesn't mean we have to do it solo. It means we can allow support. Um, there are community professionals and trusted guides who can help us and can hold space for us in this journey and help us lighten our load. So that's the first thing I think we have to, and we talk about this all the time. um, Stephanie talks about it, and she talked about it briefly yesterday, and she even referenced Boosie's song "Independent." I was impressed. That's a myth. We don't have to sign up for that. Ella's saying, if there's no illness involved, it is selfish. Now is the time to declutter and only live with what you love and are actually using. Agree. And while we are in our good health is the time to be thinking about that. That is why we're having this conversation. Absolutely, Tanya, this conversation is for you. Yes, I am so strong and independent. I won't ask for help. I must do better. Absolutely. I can relate to that. I can see myself in that. And I can also tell you that that doesn't always take you far. And I'm not speaking on anything that I don't know, having experienced a stroke December 23rd, 2023, 12/23/23. Asking for help and even care, hospital care, and who's going to go with me and all that kind of stuff. That was difficult. I didn't have a choice on any of it, but it was difficult to me because I am strong. I am independent. I am the person that is usually offering that care and support to others. So it ain't going to go well for you. Again, speaking from experience, to continue to be the person who won't ask for help. I don't want to say, sometimes it can be a pride thing. I'm not saying that about you, and I'm not exactly saying that about me. I am saying sometimes it puts us in a place of vulnerability that we're not used to, especially when maybe sometimes in the past you have asked for help and not received it, or receive half-ass help when you know that you don't give half-ass help. So it puts you in a place of, I won't do that anymore. I learned my lesson. Tracy Collins and I were just having this conversation the other day about living in the land of reciprocity. We have to work to get in spaces where reciprocity is a given. Not that you expect it, but where it is a given because you're in those right relationships. And so I would encourage you to work on that. And again, I'm not saying anything that I haven't had to do and anything that I don't have to continue doing for myself. It is a constant work in progress. So work on that, sis. So the first thing that our first point is in not having to do this alone is that having to do it alone or having to be that strong, independent Black woman is not something that we need to keep signing up for, because it's not serving us well. And then my second point, and I spoke about this to the person I was speaking to last night, is you can outsource. Very welcome. You can outsource the overwhelm. It's overwhelming. It's a lot. The stuff, the clutter, the people, places, and things that need to be sorted out, that need to be cleaned out, that need to be donated out, that need to be crossed out. It didn't happen overnight. And so, and it's absolutely overwhelming. So you can outsource the overwhelm. It is one of those things. So one of the things that's always funny to me is people who have house cleaners, and they have the housekeepers come in, but before the housekeepers come in, they basically clean the damn house before the housekeeper comes in, because, and I'm not saying like just don't have your house a whole damn wreck and expect the housekeeper to come in. But I have friends who basically have cleaned the whole damn house because that's what they do. And what are you paying the housekeeper for? Again, I am not advocating for living in a damn tornado and expecting the house cleaner, or underpaying. Like, if you live in a tornado and you're paying the cleaning person well to undo that tornado, then by all means, if they signed up for that and you're paying them responsibly, then do what you do. The land of reciprocity. But you can outsource overwhelm. As again, downsizing isn't just getting rid of stuff. It is emotional. It is logistical. Sometimes it's traumatic. Yeah, absolutely. But there are professional organizers, and I was mentioning that to this woman last night. There are people who manage moves. There are donation services. And then there are tiny house consultants. Y'all know one. That can help, and who specialize in this. That's their whole job. That's what they want to do. People, places, and things. Downsizing and decluttering. People, places, and things. Absolutely, WLJ. There are people who do this work, and that's their job, and that's what they sign up to do. And outsource the overwhelm. Like, you don't have to do all the things when it's heavy. You can absolutely outsource the overwhelm. And when you're hiring support, it's not weakness. Like, it doesn't mean you're weak. It is, I love that, Evelyn. It is, it's actually self-care. It's strategy. It is smart. Because there's some things that might not be your forte. I cannot figure out how to organize this garage, get this stuff out of these closets. I can't figure out how to do that. Hire somebody. The bonus that person brings in is that is helpful, that you have to make peace with. But once you've read Christine's book and you're in that proper mindset, so you don't have the unnecessary attachment to stuff where it's really painful, that person can come in and they don't have the emotional. Teresa, good to see you. They don't have the emotional attachment to your things. And so this process is work for them. It is functional for them. It becomes easy for them. Now, if you in there micromanaging no, don't get rid of that, no, then you are wasting your time and your money. But absolutely. But hire somebody to do that work, and you sit back and stay in the lane that is your better lane. Because on the other side of that is money well spent, time, energy savings, and then you can be focused on the things that you are best suited to focus on. You could be sitting down taking a nap, since y'all know I'm big on naps now. You could be somewhere taking a nap while they're focused on undoing the overwhelm that has been nagging you. Tanya said, who told you that 2 days ago I cleaned my home before the house cleaners arrived? They had to ask Tanya to have a seat. Isn't that something? All in the way. Let them folks do their job. I already know. I have friends who do it. It is beyond me, but okay. So point one, doing it alone is a myth. Having to be the independent, strong Black woman is done. We don't have to do that right now. We can be soft. We can be in our era where we allow folks to help us. That's the first point. The second point, outsource the overwhelm. Stay in your lane. Do the things that you know. Outsource the things that are causing you overwhelm, that because you're not making any progress. You look at the stuff every day, you go in, I'm going to handle this today. And then it's the next day, and it's the next day, and then it's a week, then it's a month, then it's a year, and then it's been several years, and you haven't handled it. Outsource it. And then my third point, which is near and dear to me, is your brain really deserves a break. It does. Y'all know I talk about my new brain. I have a new brain that I am working with right now. And if you are having to navigate big transitions, that's taxing your executive functions. Executive function is the organizing, the processing, all of the things, which I've shared with you all. My executive function took a big hit in having experienced a stroke. I'm not trying to tax it any further. The work that I'm doing in therapy and talking to my neurologist, in talking to not just my therapist, but in talking to she is a speech pathologist or something like that, but she also works with organizing and planning for neurological patients. My brain deserves a break. My brain has to have a break, because right now my brain is like, we can't do this no more. And that was strong points for me, that I did so well. But your brain might force you to take a break, or you might just need to go ahead and give your brain the break. The second point is, like, in giving your brain a break, is that decision fatigue is real. If you have to make less decisions, that also means you make less mistakes, and it also means that you have more peace. Leave stuff to the people who aren't in decision fatigue. And again, this is investing in support. It is investing in your brain space and your well-being. Good afternoon. It is, again, near and dear to me, like, because I have no choice right now but to recognize when I need help, recognize when I need to sit down and take a nap, recognize when I'm in overwhelm, because as I was sharing with my neurologist, at some point my brain is just like, we done, we're shutting down, because it's just overwhelm. Very welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Teresa. Your brain deserves a break. And when we're in strong, independent Black woman, can do all the things, don't need nobody's help, you are overtaxing your brain. You are probably in some ways misusing your brain. Like, it's too much. And sometimes your brain is going to say for you. So give your brain a break. Voluntarily give your brain a break before it takes the break. Because your body can only take so much. Like, if you aren't mindfully doing the things to get the correct support, at some point your body will be sending you hints, notes, messages along the way. In my case, I felt the messages. I knew exactly what was happening. I pay attention to my body, was paying attention to my body. Wasn't necessarily I did the things. I went to the doctor to say, hey, this is happening. It was a miss on my doctor's part not to send me for further testing, because I was listening to my body, and my body was telling me, hey, we ain't happy right now. And then your body will say, all right, I warned you, it's done. Now you got to listen for real. So give your brain a break. And then my fourth point is you can focus on what only you can do. So if decluttering isn't your specialty, hire somebody who can do that. And when I say hire somebody, so maybe now you're thinking, I don't have the money to hire somebody. We are in spaces of, again, reciprocity. If we're in those spaces of reciprocity, we can, it doesn't always have to be a financial payment. When I say hire somebody, it can be bartering services. I've got this thing that I do well. I'm in a circle of friends who, exactly, Evelyn, I'm in a circle of friends who I can say, listen, I need help in this area, because I'm in this circle of friends where I can be vulnerable. I need help in this area. I cannot seem to make any progress. And can you help me? The thing about it is that person may not, like, downsizing, decluttering, is, as we're talking about physical things, might not be their forte. Like, that's not what they do in life. But again, when it ain't your stuff, it's easier to go in and get rid of somebody else's stuff and organize somebody else's stuff. They don't have the attachment. And if you trust them, they're your person. They're not going to try to cause you any harm. That can be a help to you, and you figure out what it is that they need help. It might be cross decluttering. I can help you with your stuff. I'm not attached to your stuff. I can go through, get rid of, sell, all, organize all the things, and you do the same for me. You're not attached to my stuff either, so it makes it easier. Absolutely, it makes it easier for you to help, because you are in that circle where you can be vulnerable, but you can also ask for help. Tanya, and so Tanya's making a point. Tanya's saying, I'm embarrassed to admit that my 50-year-old son filled my garage up with his shit while he was in between wives. I'm going to hire a service to haul his stuff away. I got two things right there. Don't be embarrassed. You ain't the only one. You ain't the number 10. It's folks right now who can't even open their garage door. Can't open their front door. Like, this isn't, if you pay attention to the businesses in your area, storage right now, there is a storage facility on just about every single corner. The businesses that are growing, storage facilities, people have shit everywhere. And it is a racket. Tracy Collins was just talking about this. I've had a storage unit at some point. You put the stuff in storage and you swear you get ready to go handle it in 3 to 6 months. And they get you because here's a deal. You use the truck and we're going to give you the first month's storage for free. And then it's $25. And then in 2 years, you paying $300 for the same storage unit that didn't grow, because they just constantly keep increasing the price. It's been 3 years and that stuff is in there, and clearly you don't need it because it's been in there for 3 years and you haven't missed it. A lot of the stuff that's in there you have replaced because you forgot it was over in there, or maybe you don't know exactly where it is, so you decide I'm not going over there. It's easier for me to buy said thing. Like, that is a whole effort in wasted energy and money. So you don't have to be embarrassed because it is a national epidemic. However it happened, son left his stuff, you did it yourself, whatever. The woman I was speaking to last night, like I said, I shared some of the stuff was stuff she inherited from family members who are no longer here. So I think we have to move past the fact that it's embarrassing, because if it wasn't something that was impacting everybody right now, we wouldn't see the storage facilities that are up and available everywhere. The piece of it that we have to focus on is, how do we get past it? I've spoken before how the overwhelm of the stuff, again, people, places, and things, the overwhelm of the stuff is mentally impacting. It is heavy. It is the stuff that has been tied to dementia, and stress, because it is an emotional and a physical weight to constantly be surrounded by things that you know are things that you need to handle, it's almost like it's, flashing at you. You're sitting in the room and you are surrounded by things that you know you need to handle. That is stressful. That no need to be embarrassed. And then my second point is going to be in that if your 50-year-old son filled it up, then I would say, as you're hiring the service to haul the stuff away, that should be 50-year-old son's money, not being in your business, but that should be 50-year-old son's money. He's a grown ass adult. And if he's not going to get rid of the stuff, then he should fund it, in my opinion. But that's just my personal opinion. Or there should be some compensation for you, to have to handle that. Absolutely. Yeah. Hey, Geraldine. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday. Hi, y'all. There is absolutely, Evelyn is saying there's a connection between clutter and trauma. That is discussed in Christine's book. Absolutely. There is a connection. So as we're doing this and we're outsourcing and getting the help where we need, that allows us to focus on what we can do, the things that we are well versed in. So we're letting other folks do the heavy lifting, and again, literally and figuratively. And then we get to focus on the pieces that we know that we can do well. And that could be figuring out the bigger vision, orchestrating your life, the intentionality of where you go forward and where you go after letting go of all this stuff, what it is that the future looks like, what the plan for the future you, and then working on basically your soul, because you got to do that work so you don't end up back in that same place, like the soul work, because you have to address how you ended up there in the first place, so you're not bound to repeat that. So having somebody else come in and help you with that work, the physical work of the downsizing, the decluttering, actually frees up your space so that you can be working on being your fullest self. You surround yourself with support, and then that's going to free you up so that you've got time to focus on the future. How do I avoid this? What do I do now? Once I get rid of this weight, this anchor, this albatross that has been around my neck, what does my future look like for me? And you get to focus and you get to dream. And that's the good space of what comes from outsourcing, and you then being able to focus on the things that you can do. The person that you hire to declutter can't build your life for you, doesn't know what it is, what your dreams are, so they can't do that part of the work. But if they're doing the hard part of it that you've not been able to do, then that frees up your executive functioning. Day said she had a pastor friend of mine to help me organize my walk-in closet. Okay, well, so Day, I would put friend of mine in quotes there, because that wasn't a true friend. Like, there was a way she could have taken that as a lesson for sharing, but it should have been a conversation with you. Like, I'd like to turn this into a sermon, and not where it felt like for you that it was betrayal. There was a way to go about that, maybe helping you spurred a conversation that she knew needed to be had with the bigger congregation. I can see that, but it sounds like the way it was done wasn't appropriate and didn't feel good. That I agree, be careful. I think that's where we go back to when we talk about the reciprocity, like trusting, having the people that help you and support you that you can trust. And that's really important. And sometimes we get burned, and you have to learn a lesson, but that's really important for us to try to stay in those spaces. And I'm sorry that you had that experience. Michelle is saying, my primary shortcoming is an excessive need for independence, and being forced to downsize was initially distressing, but I rapidly rebranded myself and grew to appreciate a more modest lifestyle. I like that. And we early on talked about the need for independence. We don't have to be that island that we've learned we have to be in this society where we have to be the strongest. We have to carry all the things. We have to do all the things. We can't ask for help. We don't have to do that. It's not serving us well to continue to be in that space. Teresa is saying, I know someone who is a hoarder, and that person decluttered, but after a death of a friend, she started hoarding again. And that's where the emotional piece of it comes in, because that hoarding is an output of inner emotion that's not being dealt with clearly. And that's why I was saying, a book like Christine's work, and having to constantly repeat the lesson of understanding why it is I do what I do, therapy, understanding my attachment. And when the first, if it's not something that you can do alone, hiring somebody to help you understand that attachment, because collecting stuff is often traumatic. I stated that from the beginning. The process, like when we see those shows where they have gone into the hoarders' lives, it is trauma. It is some mental illness. It is some mental instability. Like when you see somebody who on those shows has an empty Sprite can, and they can't imagine that somebody would throw that out. It is mental instability, and we have to do the work. We have to set ourselves up in the places to get the internal help before we can be free of the external result. And so that's a key piece of that. Coach, hey Donna, I'm also in declutter mode after family left things behind. Definitely overwhelmed. Need to see the book info. Joined you late. So this is the book. You were in Patreon. We're reading this in Patreon in book club. So it's Christine Platt's The Afro Minimalist Guide to Living with Less. That is the book. And the part that the thing that I love about this book is Christine's book is it is for the African diaspora. It is talking to us and our history and focused on why it is we do what we do. We're centered in this book. Um, yeah. So that's my recommendation. Rosalind is saying asking for help is traumatic due to the way we've been let down in the past. I mentioned that too. I definitely can relate to that. I shared that, like, it is some vulnerability in asking for help. It is vulnerability in asking for help again after somebody's let you down. But as I also was speaking to, like where Tracy was saying, the land of reciprocity I mentioned, unfortunately you have to, and again, I'm not saying anything I haven't had to learn and do myself. Sometimes you just have to keep dipping your toe in the water of and working on surrounding yourself with the right people. And that is part of my daily prayer, to be surrounded by the right people, because having to keep relearning that lesson or revisiting that lesson is traumatic. But we can't we can't allow ourselves to suffer in not asking for help and not being willing to be vulnerable to ask for help, because we've been burned. Like, we have to try to, it's either I'm gonna do all the things and I'll wear myself out, or I'm gonna try to ask for help and possibly get burnt. And it's the balance of those two things, and landing in the right place where it's okay to ask for help because you found the right people. And that is a continual effort. And it's hard, but clearly for all of us to be in that same place is not unheard of, but it is and one of the things that in my conversation with Tracy, and Tracy was saying, you got to evaluate what it is that you're bringing to the table, bringing to the relationship that allows you to keep meeting up with those people, and looking at ways that you can fix you. I have known for many years I'm a giver, and oftentimes givers get hooked up with takers. And I can't fix the takers. I can only fix me as a giver, and how I present in my giving and how I manage my giving, so that I don't feel used or taken advantage of. Because if I'm giving and I'm willingly giving, if I'm not being held up, by gunpoint, and they're taking from me, then it's something that I'm doing. And the only way I can address that is address me. That's the only thing I can control. So we have to understand what it is that we're bringing to the relationship that makes it feel one-sided, that makes that or what it is that we're bringing to the relationship that allows us to keep getting connected with those types of people, and put some checks and balances in place, so that you can, there's some trends. These are the types of people, and I remember these things about these types of people that ended up being this way. And so you're more cautious in the upfront of doing your evaluation. If this, then if I see this characteristic, then I run like hell. Those types of things we have to do the work up front, the smarter work, to try to find ourselves in places where we can feel that where we can trust. Not saying anything I haven't had to do. And it's a hard lesson. Like when you get to be in your late 50s and you still having to figure out, can I say a really bad word? Who you can trust and still get in those spaces. It's hard out here for a pimp. It's but it's necessary because we can't do all the things by ourselves. And I would encourage you to know that it is possible. So yeah, there's that. Hey Robert, thank you. Let me look at my notes, see what my point was. What point was I on? Focus on things focus on the things that you can do. Outsourcing. So you can focus on the things. And then we really have to remember that connection is a tool, not just it is hard. It's hard out here for a pimp. Connection is a tool, not just a resource. And when I'm saying that, it's like whether we're using our friends or a coach, family, or a paid professional, like those are resources that are available to us right now. It's not like the last resort. Like you shouldn't wait until you are worn out. You've been at this for 20,000 years and you've exasperated yourself. And now I'm finally going to call in a professional. Those are available resources to us right now to avoid the overwhelm, to avoid overtaxing our executive function. And that's the way we need to see it. It's not, if I try this 10 times and I can't get it the 10 times, then I'm going to call somebody. Our bodies, our nervous systems, our energy, our lives, life is short. We owe considering resources sooner than later. We owe considering resources not at the very last minute to ourselves. And when we consider being in community, and we've been speaking about being in community for a long time now, when we're in community, when we're in the right community, things move faster. Things are better. They're more sustainable because you've got those shared resources, but you're operating in reciprocity. You're not just taking, you're giving. And Bridget is saying it's tricky. If you're a giver, don't you need a receiver? Absolutely. But it doesn't have to be, I'm the giver at 100% and you're the taker at 100%. It's got to be the balance. That's the reciprocal part of it. And it is tricky, but it's absolutely imperative that we do it. It is so good for our inner selves. It is so good for our exterior selves. It is so good for our nervous system to be in those spaces where we don't feel like it's all on our shoulders. In those spaces where you feel loved and appreciated, because reciprocity helps you feel loved and appreciated. We're as much as I do all the things, and I'm very much into, doing all the things and doing the things myself, and I'm all of those things, but I also recognize that I wasn't meant to build my future in isolation. Like we aren't, we're meant to have some alone time. We're meant to have that, but we're not designed and meant to be lonely. And there's a big difference. We're not meant to be in forced isolation because we feel we can't find circles where reciprocity, or connections where reciprocity is available. Bridget is saying, I'm not always a good receiver. Same. It's a lesson. Again, that makes you feel vulnerable if you're not good at being a receiver. Y'all have taught me that. I have shared that from the beginning. But sometimes you get to a point where being a receiver is necessary, is all you got, because you can't do. And so it is a lesson that we have to learn. Robert, are you talking to me that I must be an Aquarius? I am not. I am a Leo through and through. I'm not good at receiving either, but if I'm the giver and I want to be in reciprocal relationships, I have to figure out how to also be a receiver. Otherwise, it's unbalanced. It's necessary to learn, and therapy helps you figure out all of this stuff. Ask me how I know. It's necessary. So the continuation of the conversation is, the future is still now, but we're not meant to have to build it alone. And absolutely, bartering, Evelyn said, bartering trains us to give and take. Yeah. Linda is saying, I am alone most of the time. After relocating back home from New York, it is almost impossible to make new friends at an older age. Most people are okay with the friends they already have. But are they really? That's the question. I think there's an assumption in that. Are they really okay? I think some of us, I think that is an assumption that's possibly not true. I feel like there are a lot more people who are alone and in the same situation, but assuming that everybody else is good. One of the things that I was sharing with my daughter, like, we're so used to, especially after COVID and being in quarantine for so long, like some of us are, it really took a toll on a lot of people. The alones really were alone. But I was saying to my daughter, there has to be a concentrated effort in connection, so that you're reaching out, even when you are in a different location and you might not have a local circle. I have 2 weekly Zooms with friends that aren't in my location. Both of the people that I Zoom with are international. One being a couple of hours behind me, and the other is a day ahead. And when it is 10 o'clock my time, it's 10 p.m. her time. But we figured out a time to put on the calendar for a weekly Zoom to stay connected. Like, there is, Rosalind is saying, strong associates than friends. I don't care what you call it. And maybe that's it. Maybe we are assigning too much emotion to the word friendship. Folks you can count on is what folks that you want to be in community with, folks that you can be in reciprocal connections with, folks that you can lean on in times of vulnerability. I don't care what you call it, but I would say We need that. And it has to be mutual um, reciprocity. I don't care what you call it. Like, time right now, and I feel like this is something we all really, really need to work work on and focus on. Times right now. It's really showing us that we need to be in community. Community is the way that we can be successful. And and we have to put the effort into being in community. We're isolated is how we all lose right now. And that's just based on everything that you see happening in this world. Isolated is how we lose. We don't have to go alone. And I'm so used to being isolated and doing my own thing. And I recognize right now that's it's not serving me. It's not serving y'all. You might feel like it is. I don't need anybody. It ain't serving y'all for real, for real. We are the only way we survive, the only way we are well right now is in community. Yeah, I love my personal time too, but and I'm not saying don't have personal time. I got plenty of personal time because I need that to recharge. That's my energy. But I also recognize that I have to be in community. And because I'm so used to being alone, I have to put in the effort to be in community. It is, like I said, scheduling it, putting it on the calendar so that it's recurring, not just trying to remember to reach out to somebody. It is a concentrated effort. Absolutely, Evelyn. It is a concentrated effort to be in community and to stay connected. Hey, LT. Um, I don't know, Jay, I don't know that I agree with that, but that if that's your experience, I don't know that I agree with that because you're not always gonna everybody's not gonna be on the same level. Some it is the again the give and take, the pull folks up. Sometimes you up and sometimes they're down and vice versa. Um I don't know. Of course I don't have all the answers for everybody. Um yeah, I would say that. I would say that. Yeah. LT is saying I can go a lot of time without other people and I have to intentionally go to be amongst the people. We need connection. I can have a whole conversation with myself and enjoy a whole damn conversation with myself. And I do it all the time. But I also recognize that I need to be in conversation with other people. Otherwise, it is just me echoing my thoughts and high fiving myself and co signing myself in the echo chamber that is the problem with a lot of our current society because they aren't engaging with other people. So yeah, I think that's all my points that I have. I'll go over my points again. Doing it alone is a myth of independence. We don't have to be the strong, solitary Black woman who's doing all the things. Um, Thriving doesn't mean you have to do it by yourself. It also means that you can allow some support. You can outsource the overwhelm. There are people who really do the work that you need done. and you can outsource that and get some help. Your brain deserves a break. Brains are important to me even more now. Your brain deserves a damn break. Give your brain a break, or your brain will take a break. You really would prefer to give your brain a break instead of the brain taking the break. Number 4, you can focus on what only you can do. If you're outsourcing, if you have the support you need, that's going to allow you to focus on the things that you do well. Focus on figuring out the intentionality of your life, what it is that you want to do when you grow up. I'm always trying to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. If you got somebody handling the stuff that's causing you overwhelm that you haven't been able to handle, then you can sit down and write you a list of things that you want to do and be when you grow up. And my 5th point, connection is a tool, not just a bonus. You don't have to wait until you are about to have to go to whatever floor it is in the hospital because you are just completely done to get some help. You don't have to do that. You can get help up front. Help should be considered support. Hiring professionals should be considered as a resource and not just a last resort. When we are working in community, working with folks who are like-minded, we don't always have to think the same thoughts because that's not helpful either. But things move faster. You can learn something. You can feel better. You can, stuff is more sustainable that way. Geraldine is saying we all need those who will stand with us in our hour of need, yet letting them in unguarded, vulnerable is the hardest part of all. Absolutely, Geraldine. I agree. Yes, Geraldine, I agree. WLJ is saying, I want to be in relationship with others, but it's been my experience that my idea of friendship is different from those that I have come in contact with. I can relate to that. And I think this for me, this is the part where I've had to do the work and identify, again, like what I said before, identify who I am, what I bring to the table, ways I felt not valued before, the ways my ideas of friendship are different from other people. And when you're doing that work with yourself and journaling and knowing yourself, when you get into those new relationships, there are some things that remind you. There might be a trigger. Somebody does something that kind of reminds you of the friendship that didn't work out. If you're doing the work and identifying who you are and what it is that the ways that friendship hasn't worked for you in the past, it helps you in the future that you say, okay, I'm not getting ready to volunteer. Normally, and again, this is me, normally I would volunteer to handle this. I'm listening to this person say blah, 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 blah. And this is a new friendship and I'm getting to know this person. Normally, I might volunteer to do X, Y, and Z because I know how to do that. Maybe I'll sit this one out. Or maybe I'll say, I can offer you some assistance and let them do the main lifting and I give them some tips. Or instead of me going 10 toes down like I normally might, let me just go a little easy to ride this friendship out to make sure I don't make some of the same mistakes I've made in the past. I have a whole tattoo on my hand. Y'all see this tattoo? It's a heart covered by a black heart. Now, y'all know I use a black heart all the time. A black heart, my black heart has changed for me over the years. But when I initially got this, it was for me to remember. I talk with my hands. I'm always gesturing. It was for me to remember to shut up, to stop volunteering my good heart in doing all the things, going all the way out for somebody, and before I know it, I'm feeling some type of way about it because I did all the things and they took all the things, but it ended up feeling one-sided for me. Again, the only person I can blame is me because I volunteered it. Oh yeah, and I can do it, and that's Jewel. And Jewel has to learn to shut up. And Jewel has a whole tattoo. Jewel has been working on this for a long, long time because Jewel knows what Jewel brings to relationships and how Jewel ends up feeling like that didn't go well. It is the knowing of yourself. And it is, hey Key. It is learning the lessons and fixing the only thing that you can control, which is yourself. Enjoy, Evelyn. Because that's the only thing you can control. And again, you got to look at it and see, if I keep ending up in this situation, how am I contributing to said situation? And I was talking about that earlier. What is it that I'm doing to keep landing myself? And that's like even with romantic relationships. If you keep dating the same type of person, the same man keeps showing up and he keeps doing the same shit that the last man did, the common denominator is you. Like, yeah, men as a whole can have issues. I'm not saying they don't. Might have similar issues, but when you keep finding yourself in the same Groundhog's Day of this keeps happening, as Teresa said, it might be a paradigm shift. The common denominator is you. What can I do to possibly avoid this situation? How am I contributing to the repeated situation? And how do I undo that? And how do I work on me? So I'm making some notes so I remember these are the things that these are the ways that I contribute to this. These are the things that I probably should do differently to not keep repeating this scenario. Sometimes it's us, or as a contributing factor. And we have to figure that out. Sometimes it's a shift, as Teresa just said. But it doesn't mean that we cut off because we've had this repeated situation, this repeated scenario, that we, bite your nose or spite your face, that we cut ourselves off from all of the good that is available and out there for people who do know how to allow you to be vulnerable, and people who can exist in relationships that are reciprocal. I ain't saying go all out, go from day one and jump in and do all the things. I'm not saying don't proceed with caution, but what I am saying is don't cut yourself off from the potential joy because we've been burnt before. We're not designed to operate in isolation. We aren't mentally able to handle operating in isolation. Studies show people in constant isolation don't do well. And so I encourage us, all of us. Absolutely, LT. That's exactly what I'm saying. Absolutely. And not to say that relationship is going to be 100% perfect, because we're imperfect people. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that we can avoid being in situations where now you got to burn the relationship down to the ground, because it just went from 0 to 100 in a negative way. What I'm saying is there are going to be mistakes. We're imperfect people. I don't, in a friendship, I can't know exactly what you're thinking. I can't know exactly what you need. But if we are trying to communicate and be our best selves because we connected with somebody who is trying to be that person for us, if we are connected in that way so we can have some conversations, and if we're using our big words ourselves, like if we're doing the work to know these are my triggers or these are the things that don't feel good for me, I can't expect this person to know that. So I've got to be using my big words to say, hey, what happened there bothered me. Can we talk about it? I have to be willing to, if I value the relationship, be willing to say to the person, there's something that happened in this relationship that I feel like we need to discuss. I'll tell anybody, if I care about you, I'm gonna try to have a conversation. Some shit pops off that didn't go well, I'm gonna try to have a conversation. Usually I'm gonna try to have a conversation 3 times. It's almost like baseball. I am going to try, like, I am an emotional person. If I care about you and something hasn't set well, I am going to have a conversation if I care about you. And I'm open. And sometimes you might have to bring the conversation to me, but I'm open to that conversation. If it's an association that I wasn't trying to go deep in friendship, then I can cut left and run real fast because I wasn't trying to go into deep connection with this person. And so they've exhibited some behaviors that I recognize are no's for me. I'm cutting left and I'm done before I feel used, abused, burnt. Maybe I did lose some skin in the game because I generally try to be a nice person. So maybe I did lose some skin in the game. But before I go all the way down to I'm skint, totally lost all my skin, I can cut left and run. But it again is us being in community, being in conversation, having done the work so that we know how to be in conversation. Because conversation is two-way. It's a lot. Shit, it's a lot. I keep telling y'all it's hard out here for a pimp. But it's necessary. That's it. That's all I got for y'all. Teresa saying diversity counseling taught her to be still and listen to other people because you don't know what they have been through. Absolutely. And asking questions, because you can have a whole scenario built up in your head of what the situation is or what you think the situation was. You've observed the situation from your personal perspective and you've assigned your history, your all of the things that you are to said situation that you observed. You brought you to that situation. And you can be sometimes 150% wrong on what that really was, but you won't know that unless you have the conversation. You can make up a whole story, and we all do that. Make up a whole story based on your lived experiences, and you can be totally wrong. But if you aren't using the words to ask the questions, and Teresa is saying you have to be unbiased. I think that's really impossible for us to be unbiased at this stage in our game. We're biased, but we have to recognize that we are biased and be willing to do the work to understand our biases and be in conversation to say, my history, my trauma normally reacts to this. This has happened to me in the past, and this is what it was for me in the past. I don't want to assume that that's what you're doing, feeling, saying. Yes. I don't want to assume that that's what you're doing, saying, how you're trying to be. So before I make that assumption, can we talk about this? Those are the big words. Like, and that's hard. Like, people don't know how to use their big words. And that's the work that has to be done for us to be in community, for us to be in reciprocal relationships, and to be caring. If you don't really care about the person, you can cut left. You can take a lesson and learn it early, because I wasn't really trying to get into deep community with you, but you can't, like, at some point you got to be willing to step a little bit further into not everybody is meant to be in that circle. Some folks are meant to be associates, some folks are meant to be business associates, some folks are meant to be those good friends, and you get to pick and choose who those folks are and how you handle them. But we aren't meant to be in isolation. There is growth in community, absolutely. All right, good people. All right, good people. Absolutely. WLJ is saying, just as I make allowances for others, I need to be in community with those who understand and are willing to do the same. That is the land of reciprocity. Absolutely. Thank you, Teresa. Thank y'all for participating in the conversation. I appreciate that you all show up, and I feel like this is a space where we get to be vulnerable. We get to share. This is community conversation for us to have. Like, we're not all like in Patreon. One of the things that I love about Patreon is transitioning is we do get to be more in conversation because we're on a Zoom, and everybody can speak. And but I appreciate you all being here to share in the conversation via comments. I really, really appreciate that, because that makes it less of me talking to y'all, because I don't want to keep talking. I don't want to just be I ain't the smartest person in the room. I just know what I know. So I'm here to share and learn from y'all too. So thank y'all for doing that. Hey, Andrea, very welcome. I'm glad you were here. Good to see you. All right, good people. Thank you, Teresa. Glad to have you here. I have missed you. Okay, LT, I'm washing stuff too. Thank you. Thank y'all. And we'll talk again soon. I appreciate y'all. Hope you have a good rest of the week, and be safe and take care. I'll see y'all soon.